You're listening to the micro version of the Savage Lovecast. www.savagelovecast.com.
If you're stuck in a relationship quandary, or if you're looking for sexual harmony, well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
It was the first email I read this morning. It was sitting there at the top of the Savage Love inbox, just waiting for me. I say this to you in love, but you will probably take offense. The world now fully accepts the gay community as a fixture within civil society. That's going to come as news to gay people all over the world, gay people in Saudi Arabia and Russia, but whatever, going on. I am grateful to you for fighting against intolerance and hatred. I pray now that you hear my next words. You are leading millions to eternal damnation. Blah, blah, blah. Judgment day approaches and eternal damnation awaits you, Savage, but there's hope, blah, blah, blah. Because there's this Jesus Christ person, this Jesus Christ deity, one of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of deities coughed up like hairballs by human cultures throughout the millennia. Zeus, Mars, Dangun, Shiva, Allah, Caligula, collect them all. My correspondent assumes, against all odds, that I have never heard of this Jesus Christ person, or this book he provided me with the Amazon link to called The Bible. I am an American, even if you set aside the Irish Catholic thing, and the dad was a Catholic deacon thing, and the mom was a Catholic lay minister thing, and I went to a seminary for high school thing, and the baptism thing, and the first communion and confirmation things. Even if I grew up Baha'i or Zoroastrian on the north side of Chicago, it isn't possible to be in this country for 5 minutes without having heard someone or many hundreds or thousands of someone's yammer on about this Jesus Christ person and the Bible. You can't live here. You can't grow up here and not be familiar with this dude. I pray you had the courage to read this. If you are offended, please open your heart and invite God in. To my correspondent, I wasn't offended by your God-bothering email this morning or the reference to the Bible, which I've read, because I'm not just familiar with your religion, I'm immune. I was exposed to what turned out to be a non-fatal dose in childhood, and while I got some lovely parting gifts in the form of hang-ups transformed into kinks by my erotic imagination, which is why I now regard them as parting gifts, my psychic immune system isn't going to collapse in the face of an email from a stranger. Only one thing bothered me about your email this morning: the timing of it. Last week, a grand jury in Pennsylvania released a 1,300-page report detailing the sexual abuse of more than 1,000 children by more than 300 Catholic priests over 70 years. At every step, the abuse was covered up, enabled, and in some cases, directly facilitated by the bishops and the archbishops and the cardinals, the so-called princes of the church. Couple examples. There was a ring of predatory priests in Pittsburgh that groomed and raped teenage boys they gave crosses to, gold crosses to, distinctive gold crosses that they encouraged these boys to wear. In the report, the grand jury says that the crosses were a designation that these children were victims of sexual abuse, a signal to other predatory priests that these boys had been desensitized to sexual abuse and were optimal targets for further victimization. A cross. And it wasn't just boys who were preyed on. A priest in Scranton, Father Thomas Skotek, raped a minor, a girl, and got her pregnant and then took her to get an abortion. Bishop James C. Timlin, then head of the diocese, sent the victim a letter. This is a very difficult time in your life, and I realize how upset you are. I, too, share your grief. Please be assured that I am most willing to do whatever I can to help. To be clear, Bishop Timlin sent that letter not to the teenage girl that Father Skotek raped, but to Father Skotek. In the eyes of Bishop Timlin, Father Skotek, the rapist, was the victim here. The church is reeling. The Pope is having to weigh in. This has been going on for the better part of 2.5 decades, these revelations about really the Catholic Church being child rape incorporated. And it's important to remember as we read this grand jury report out of Pennsylvania, this is not the result of a nationwide investigation like the ones conducted in Australia and Ireland. This is 6 dioceses, or diocese, whatever the plural of dioceses is, out of the 140 dioceses in the United States. There are more cases out there, tens of thousands more cases out there, more predatory priests and more bishops, archbishops, and cardinals with the blood of children on their hands. So yeah, maybe now isn't the right time to come at me or to come at anyone about religion and accepting Jesus Christ as your personal savior being the path to moral righteousness here on earth and salvation up there in heaven. There are evangelicals out there tutting about the crisis in the Catholic Church, all those predatory priests, as if this isn't a problem in evangelical churches and evangelical communities. There is a long list of evangelical pastors who've been taken out by revelations of sexual misconduct. The Me Too movement has also impacted evangelical churches. And you know what? Not a day goes by without a youth pastor being arrested for child rape or on child porn possession charges, or both. In Matthew 7:3-5, Jesus said to someone, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own?" Except in this case, it's planks in everybody's eyes. A lot of people, in the wake of the Pennsylvania report, which comes in the wake of reports going back 2.5 decades, are saying that the church, to reform itself, to make it a safer place for children, needs to end celibacy and needs to allow priests to marry and needs to allow women to serve. I'm for all that. I would point out, though, that children are being raped every day in evangelical churches where priests don't have to be celibate, where priests can marry, and where women are allowed to be pastors. So this isn't a cure-all. And in fairness, children have been raped by teachers, by police officers, by cops, by firemen. But there's this thing that happens when someone is wearing a collar, when someone is a pastor, when someone hangs a shingle and opens up their own goddamn little mega church, disorganized religion, as my mother called it. And that's people lower their guard. People assume this person can be trusted because they are a man or a woman of God. And people continue to make that assumption and continue to place their trust in these self-appointed spokespersons for God, these God botherers, when they shouldn't. Obviously, look at the news. Look at the news out of Pennsylvania. Google youth pastor and arrest and see what pops up in your community. We need to reform the church. We need to reform our religious communities. We need to reform our culture sexually in so many ways. And in the meantime, while we work on all of that, let's not be credulous marks, shall we? As I like to say each and every time I tweet out a new youth pastor watch, if kids got raped by clowns as often as they get raped by preachers and priests, it would be illegal to take your kids to the circus. Maybe while the Catholic Church is working on this, and maybe while evangelical churches and communities are working on this, we should all stop taking our kids to the circus. Coming up today on the Savage Lovecast, tons of your Qs, lots of my As, and on the Magnum subscription edition of the Savage Lovecast that you can subscribe to at savagelovecast.com. Twice as long and no ads. Joining us this week on the Magnum, Dr. Lori Brotto, here to discuss her new book, Better Sex Through Mindfulness, How Women Can Cultivate Desire. Coming up, all that on today's show. MeUndies makes feel-good underpants your butt will be proud to wear and you will be proud to be seen in. They will be the most comfortable pair of underwear you will ever own, and to check it out yourself, go to meundies.com/savage. Thanks to Audible for supporting the Savage Lovecast. For a free audiobook with a 30-day free trial, go to audible.com/savage or text SAVAGE to 500-500. Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Apron. Blue Apron delivers all fresh, high-quality ingredients and recipes you need to create delicious home-cooked meals. Get your first 3 meals for free by going to blueapron.com/savage.
Hey, Dan. Calling from the West Coast. White, heterosexual, cis male. I've got a question about my girlfriend. We're currently in round 2. Been dating for about 3 months this time and 3 months that time. We broke up because I had just gotten out of a long-term relationship, and she had dealt with some very severe, a tragic death in her personal circle, and basically it was too much for both of us. Took some time off, got back together, and essentially, I'm a fairly sensitive guy. She, while is sensitive and has emotions, of course, has a harder time articulating them. And I guess our standard for quality time is very different. I really care about this girl. I told her I loved her. She actually did not reciprocate, but, she said she really cared about me. And basically, when we spend time together, she always wants to do things in groups of people, but we don't seem to really connect with groups of people. Like, we don't really talk very much. She's talking to everybody else. And then she's like, we just spent an entire day together. I have other things to do. I don't want to spend any more time with you. Makes me feel like we're not really connecting. And she feels like, I think at least, she feels like I'm smothering her, whereas I feel like we're not spending enough time together. I really don't want to see this relationship break down, but I just don't know how to fix everything because of our slightly different personalities.
She doesn't want to spend time with you alone. When she is with you, with other people, she doesn't talk to you. And when you said I love you, she didn't say I love you back. That's not necessarily a problem. Not everyone's ready to say I love you at the same time. But lumped in with those other two issues, doesn't really make time for you alone, doesn't really make time for you when you're together with other people. I'd say that this relationship is pretty broke down, whether you want it to break down or not. And your feeling, this feeling that you aren't connecting, is not irrational. You aren't connecting. I think that you should be off again with this girl. You should tell her, obviously, we got back together a little too soon, maybe, or we're not right for each other, but something's not working here. So rather than chase you around at parties and ask you for more than you're willing to or able to give me right now, let's just be friends. Let's just be chill and put it in the offsetting. And if you want to date other people, please go date other people. I'm going to date other people. If when you're ready to be with me in the way that I need someone to be with me when I'm with that person, perhaps we can pick it back up and be on again. But right now, it's off.
Hi, Dan. I'm a 30-year-old woman living in New York City. I have a question about dating in New York specifically. I have struggled with my weight for basically my entire life since I was a teenager. I've been everything from like a 00 to a 22, literally every size in between. And I've dated people at all sizes, although when I was heavier, my boyfriends would make sort of comments to me that weren't so nice, would encourage me to lose weight, whatever. But at this point, I'm literally in a middle ground. I'm at what I think is a healthy size and weight for me specifically, not to say anything about where anyone else should be. But I still feel really insecure about dating in New York because the women are so thin and so beautiful, and I feel like even when I think that someone might be interested in me, or if I'm out with my friends, they're like, oh, that guy's looking at you or whatever, I can't take it seriously because I feel like how could a man be attracted to me when there's so many beautiful women in New York? So I just don't know what to do about that. I have a lot of trouble dating because I don't feel like anyone could ever look at me and be into me. Another related question, I guess, is if I ever were to be with someone again, I do have a lot of stretch marks on my legs, on my stomach, on my arms, on my breasts, because my weight has fluctuated so much throughout my entire life, and that's embarrassing to me. Any help would be really, really appreciated. I don't know if this is like a get thee to a therapist situation, or if I'm being a baby and I should just go online and be really open about my weight. I don't know what to do.
First, glad you're feeling good about your size and weight, and I would encourage you to not waste any more time on a boyfriend who, quote unquote, encourages you to lose weight. You should put it down as a marker at the beginning of a relationship that any sort of encouragement like that is a deal breaker for you and a relationship terminator. Your question kind of reminds me of calls and questions I get from gay guys in places like New York or anywhere who say that no one could ever possibly look at them and be interested in them because they're not ripped, because they don't have abs, because they don't look like models. And they will say, everyone here is thin and beautiful, or muscular and beautiful, and a gym queen. And it's just not fucking true. I was just in New York for a couple of weeks, and there are women of all shapes and sizes in New York City. I see them everywhere I go. So if all you're seeing is incredibly thin women, that's all you're looking at, which is what I often find myself telling guys, gay guys, who complain that no one could ever possibly want them because all the gay men they see in the media, all the gay men that they see out in the bars or running around are ripped jocks with abs. And my reply to them is always, that's all you're looking at, because I look around and I see all different types of gay men. I also see different types of gay men, all different types of gay men being pursued by all different types of gay men. Guys who look at you in bars when you're out with your friends, guys who might flirt with you, take the yes for an answer. There are guys out there who are attracted to skinny bitches. There are guys out there who are attracted to bigger women. And there are guys out there who are going to be attracted to you at the size you are. And I think that the confidence that you're projecting until that disconnect, until the circuit breaker kicks in, that confidence that you're probably projecting now because you feel good about the size you are and the weight you are at the moment, is attracting attention from guys who are into your type, but also attracted to women who project that kind of confidence. It's just the minute you're conscious of some guy's interest, you look around and you single out, you pick out the skinny bitches in the room and you think, I'm not one of them, couldn't possibly be interested in me because all women in New York are them. And that's not true. And your presence in New York is proof that that is not true. And if you look around a little bit, just like the gay guys who say all gay men at the bars or who are out, who are desirable, have abs and are ripped, if you look around a little bit, you'll see other women who look like you on dates. You'll see other women who look like you sitting in sidewalk cafes with their partners having dinner or lunch. Open your eyes and look around. As for the stretch marks, everybody's got their scars, everyone's got their issues, everyone's got their insecurities about their bodies. Some folks like to have sex in the dark. I'm one of those folks. I like the lights off and the windows closed. Some people like to leave a little bit of clothing on when they're having sex. For some guys, stretch marks are going to be an issue, and some guys might be attracted to you despite them, but some guys might be attracted to you regardless. It might not be an issue for them at all, but you can't find either set of those guys. The guys who are so into you that the stretch marks aren't an issue, or the guys who are attracted to you and they don't even see the stretch marks if you aren't willing to get with guys because you're so insecure. Because although comfortable at the size and weight you are now, the only women that you are clocking and looking at are the skinny bitches, who aren't the only women in New York. You're a woman in New York. You aren't a skinny bitch. You are proof all by yourself that what you said at the top of the call, top of your question, isn't true. Might help to unpack these issues with a therapist who can help build up your confidence, make you feel better about yourself, and knock down this kind of irrational, self-undermining thinking that you're engaged in. So I would recommend that. Talking about this at greater length with a therapist is a good idea. And a quick PS, there are guys out there who are into women of all sizes, but a lot of guys who are into bigger women are insecure about that because they worry about what their friends are going to think, because they're all supposed to want the same sort of idealized skinny bitch girlfriend. And so the guy in the bar who flirts with you, who makes eyes with you, who's trying to pick you up, he's confident in his desire and his attraction to women of different sizes or women of your particular shape and size. And you should let his confidence, that guy's confidence in his own taste and his desire for you, attract you in the same way your confidence attracted him. For my busy listeners zipping through your summer when it comes to dinner, let Blue Apron take care of the planning and the shopping. You do the cooking, you do the eating. You'll enjoy delicious meals like Tuscan chicken and summer vegetables with pearl couscous and fresh basil fettuccine with tomatoes and sweet corn. On the table in 30 minutes or less. With incredible ingredients and chef-designed recipes, Blue Apron lets you truly enjoy your summer. Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the country. Their mission is to make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone, even inept non-home cooks like me. If Blue Apron could turn me into a home cook, they can turn you into a home cook. Blue Apron achieves this miracle, in my case, by supporting a more sustainable food system, setting the highest standards for ingredients, and building a community of home chefs. Blue Apron offers 3 meal plans, a 2-person meal plan, a family plan, and a wine plan. Terry and I use Blue Apron regularly, and we love it. So check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals for free at blueapron.com/savage. That's blueapron.com/savage. Blue Apron, a better way to cook.
Hi, Dan, Nancy, and the Tech Savvy at-risk youth. I'm a woman, 30 years old, living in the Midwest. I recently met a man on FetLife about a month or and a half ago, and he presented himself as everything that I wanted. A spanking fetishist who was into social justice and just everything I wanted in a man. And after seeing him for a while, not that long, obviously, it was a month and a half ago, we had sex, and he spanked me, and it was really great. And then I found out that he had been lying to me about basically everything. He's a married man who's a lead pastor at a conservative church. So everything he said about social justice, everything he said about, this future that he wanted to have with me, it was all just bullshit. And I'm feeling very violated. There's part of me that just wants to, let go of the resentment, move on, and let him fuck up his own life. Because I don't want to do anything out of resentment or spite. But there's also part of me that's like, if he's dangerous, is it my responsibility to say something? Do I need to out this man? He's a lead pastor. He has control. And, yeah, he lied to me about so much and took something that wasn't his to take without consent. So, yeah, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this.
All right, I'm looking at the website for this particular, looks like a mini megachurch out in the boonies somewhere, and I'm looking at a picture of the lead pastor, and this is the guy who spanked you, who convinced you he was a social justice warrior, because in reading about this church, there's not a lot of social justice-y shit going on at this church. It looks like you're off-the-shelf, evangelical, conservative, Trump-supporting, anti-gay marriage, anti-abortion, anti-women's rights, kind of Jesus shop.
Even offered to go with me to a Bernie Sanders rally.
Why didn't you take him there? I think you should have taken him up in that offer, just so he'd be photographed at a Bernie Sanders rally and have to explain that to people.
He ended up spanking me and having sex with me that night instead.
And how did the relationship end?
I sent him a picture of him on the website, and I said, "So you're married?" via text message, and then he was like, "Oh, this would inevitably happen," and I basically sent him an article on rape by deception and said, "What would Jesus do about that?"
Oh, good for you. You don't need my advice. Yeah. You're killing it. But your question is, should you out him or should you not out him?
Yeah, I'm getting my master's in social work right now. I want to be a sex therapist. That's my goal. And I don't know if it's ethically an imperative for me to say something, because I'm also of the mind where it's I don't know if that's good for his kids or his family either, Well,
you don't want to make the leap from, lie to someone to get into their pants to molesting their own children or endangering their own children. I think that's a broad
No,
jump.
I mean the other side. The other side, if I out him, that would be hard on his family.
Oh, yeah, that would be...
You would have to deal with the repercussions about that.
That's absolutely correct. You would be blowing up this man's family and also blowing up his professional life. My concern, and this is, I'm a Libra, and I believe not in astrology at all, but for the sake of the metaphor, I'm a Libra here, and I'm putting some stuff on one side of the scales and some stuff on the other side of the scales. And definitely on one side is blowing up this man's family and potentially traumatizing his children and impoverishing his family, because reading about his, I'm looking at his bio right now. He spent the last 10, 15 years really buying into all of this and getting master's degrees and PhDs and Jesus stuff. And, he'd have to go be a used car salesman or something, because he's not qualified to do anything else at this point.
He also does IT work, oddly enough. He also has a job in IT right now.
But on the other side of the scales, there are a lot of creepy pastors out there who are in a position to take advantage of vulnerable parishioners, people who come to them for counsel and moral guidance and leadership. And, you can pick up any newspaper in the country, in any city, any state, and read stories about people abusing that kind of authority and hocus pocus, where people believe that they're talking to someone who exists on a kind of higher moral plane, and they can trust this person not to take advantage of them. So people lower their guard around this person, and that makes it possible for that person, often ordained person, to abuse or exploit them sexually. And that goes into the like out the motherfucker side of the ledger. There have been cases where, pastors of churches have been outed and sexual sin that they have committed has been addressed, and where they've given tearful, apologies about sinning and, we're all sinners, we're all fallen, and then been embraced by their congregation. And the woman who brought the complaint has been ostracized by the congregation. You're not a member of the congregation.
Oh, hell no.
And you don't have to worry about that potential repercussion. In dinking around on this church's website for a bit, most churches of this sort have kind of a board of directors, people who are empowered to oversee the pastor, people who hired the pastor and are there to, create some accountability for the pastor. And you could particularly if you have screen grabs of your conversations, and you can prove that this happened and prove how you met and many pictures that he sent you, you could communicate to them privately about your experience with this guy. And they may circle the wagons and they may protect him and they may hush it up. But that might inspire him, that near professional and personal death experience, to knock this shit off. Or it may result in them frog marching him out of their Jesus shop once and for all. Yeah, fuck. I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to do here. Because just like you, I bump on those two. I bump on the kids. The kids that he has, the kids that he talks about in his sermons, which I have now read. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to set aside my desire for vengeance myself when I, see the things that he said and written about people who are like me, who are parents, who he doesn't think should be parents and he doesn't think should be married.
Oh no!
To their partners.
I didn't read that.
I'm inferring that from the church's statement of beliefs.
You're extrapolating.
Actually, where,
okay, that would make sense.
God ordained marriage, one man, one woman. That's the only kind that's okay. And it's not one man, one woman, and then other women you spank on the side and lie to in order to get into their pants and get your hand on their bums and get your dick up them. That's not okay.
Yeah, he was talking long term too. He was talking like marriage and like all these things he thought us doing together. It was bad.
Yep. I'm going to come down on the side of out the guy, but ultimately it's your decision to make. It'll suck for his kids, suck for his wife, but let's say you do nothing, except you confronted him privately and personally by pointing out that rape by deception is a thing, and an infraction that he himself committed when he lied to you in order to obtain your consent under false pretenses. If he's doing that, he sounds so slick and smooth. This isn't the first time he's done this to someone.
I doubt it.
And he's going to continue to do this to other women. And the more he gets away with this kind of exploitation and abuse, the more women he's going to exploit and abuse, and the worse it's probably going to get over time. And I don't trust someone in this kind of position of moral authority where it inspires so many gullible people to lower their guards despite all the newspaper stories and news articles and media reports about rapey priests and pastors. I don't trust him not to begin taking advantage of his own parishioners and his parishioners being vulnerable to him because of that.
Yeah, that's my fear.
And so find out who the board of governors are, go to the website, dig around, find out who the accountability team is for the pastor at this little Jesus shop, and send him an email. Include a bunch of screen grabs and tell them that you want to hear back from them about what was done and that you're reaching out to them privately because you're concerned for this man's kids. So maybe if they handle this in an ethical, responsible way, you won't take it to the media.
Yeah.
But demand to be informed about what they do, what steps they take to hold this guy accountable and to get him to knock this shit the fuck off. All that said, do you fear this guy?
A little bit, because I have no idea who he actually is.
Does he know where you live?
Yeah. He knows where I live. He knows where I work. He knows where I go to school.
Something you need to factor into the decision and choice that you're about to make, which is your own safety.
Yeah.
Because what if he does retaliate? Or what if you communicate to them privately, they try to hush it up or handle it privately, and he shows up at your place?
Yeah.
To try to put an end to this himself.
Yeah, that's
to cover it up.
Worst of all possible narratives.
Yeah.
I've had that thought, though.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
And you can hold him accountable. You can out him. You can go to the media. If you have any concerns about your physical safety when you decide to do that, maybe stay at mom and dad's for a month. Maybe not be where he thinks you could be.
Right.
And you have secrets perhaps on the line here too, depending on how out you are about your sexual interests.
Yeah. I'm fairly out, but still, I don't necessarily want the whole world to know.
Yeah. So I actually, so I would encourage you to out him, but it is ultimately your decision to make.
Yeah. Gotta be safe.
Right. You got to be
Careful.
safe. There are risks here for you personally around your own safety, which you have to balance with your totally legitimate concern for your own safety is your concern for other women that he may take advantage of, including other women in his bananas congregation who believe the bananas things that he says. Ugh.
Yeah.
It's such a horrible position to be in. I don't envy you the decision that you've got to make. In your shoes, I've already told you what I would do. I would write to the church elders, the accountability committee, the board, demand satisfaction and demand to know how they're going to handle this and not be at my own apartment for a couple of weeks.
That's a scary thought.
You also have the option of doing it in a year.
Yeah, I'm moving to LA in a year.
If you're moving away, you're getting a new job, he's not going to know where you are. And, that can be the step you take for your own personal safety. Right now, he knows where you are. Right now, it's maybe too dangerous.
Yeah.
If it's a kind of Trump-loving church, that's a gun-loving church. And a year from now, you can do it. You can protect other women from 12 months out onward instead of risking potentially your life taking these steps right now.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that idea.
Okay, that's what we're going to go with. So you're going to call us back in 12 months. After you live in LA, you're going to call us back and let us know how it went.
Okay, I will.
Okay. Good luck. Talk to you soon, or talk to you in a year. We're gonna call you back if we don't hear from you.
Okay, deal.
Bye. When you're swapping dirty messages with that exciting new stranger that you met on some app, and they ask you a question that inevitably gets asked, what are you wearing? You know what you want to be able to say? Me undies. I'm wearing me undies. Of course I'm wearing me undies because they are fun and they're comfortable and they feel as good as they look. And then you can take a picture and send it to them and prove that your me undies feel as good as they look. So to those of you who haven't tried them yet or sexted out pictures of yourselves wearing them yet, you can get incredible underwear sent to your door with me undies, meaning no more hunting around for the perfect pair at crowded stores and eventually settling for good enough. MeUndies are made with a sustainably sourced material from beechwood trees. Their naturally soft fiber makes a fabric that won't sag or ride up. Trust me, once you have put on a pair, you will get it. My husband and MeUndies are the perfect combination. Trust me on that as well. They're super sexy and super comfortable. Nancy is furiously nodding her head right now because she is wearing her own pair of super comfortable MeUndies. MeUndies is so sure that you, like Nancy and Terry, will love your first pair of MeUndies that if you're not happy, they'll do whatever they can to get you into the right pair. And if they can't, you can keep them and they'll refund you. So it really is risk-free to try the best underwear out there ever. And if you're already a part of the MeUndies fam, tell your friends about it through their referral program and you will get a discount and you will get store credit. Win-win. And MeUndies has a deal for my listeners. First-time purchasers get 20% off their first pair of MeUndies and free shipping. That's 20% off plus free shipping and a guarantee that you and your MeUndies will be very happy together. So get your butt over to MeUndies and treat yourself. To get your 20% off your first pair, free shipping, 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/savage. That's MeUndies.com/savage.
Hey, Dan and the Tech Savvy at-risk youth. I'm calling from LA. I'm a late 20s gay guy, and I have a dating question for you. So I've sort of hit a pattern of sort of getting to know guys, and when the topic of sort of coming out and how it happened and when it happened comes along, I answer honestly. Oh, it came out within a few years ago. It went like this. My parents were like that. You know, pretty normal conversation. But every time I have their conversation, it's met with the sort of, whoa, that's so recent, which I guess I can understand, but at the same time, that's also when the guys sort of pull away, sort of, arm's reach, and it becomes kind of clear they don't want to, quote unquote, take a risk on a guy who's, I guess, recently out of the closet. So my question to you is, what do I do with that? I feel like I have a couple of options. I can, one, just sort of wait it out. In a few years or 5 years or 10 years, coming out of my 20s won't be a big deal, right? And I can date then. Or I could just lie and fudge the numbers a bit. Oh, I came out several years ago or 7 years ago, which is icky, I guess, but it feels almost less icky than, being sort of turned down at face value because, well, I guess I seem like a great guy on the surface, and how are you so single? Oh, you've been out too recently, not going to work. So, Dan, I was just wondering what your take on that is. Do I just wait? Do I tell a white lie? Do I avoid the subject at all costs? Help me.
When someone comes out, when a gay person or a lesbian comes out, in some ways their kind of emotional life is set back to age 13 because we, when we come out, begin to date. Our straight peers, my straight siblings, they were dating and having boyfriends and girlfriends in middle school. And in a lot of ways, somebody who comes out at 25 or 35 or 45 has to learn all this shit about dating and about themselves, in middle age or in their mid-20s, that their straight peers, straight family members, most of them, not all of them, some straight people don't date in adolescence, but most of them learned through trial and error when they were 14, 15, 16 years old, when the stakes were lower because marriage wasn't on the table and kids weren't on the table and people didn't have apartments and credit cards and other things available to them to help them get into all sorts of relationship trouble. So these guys who bump on the fact that you have only been out for a couple of years, that's not an entirely irrational prejudice. Sorry, I'm just going to throw that on the table, that they may detect in you an immaturity. And the news that you've only been out for a couple of years may confirm this sense that they've already had, that you're not quite ready for a relationship, that you're still learning who you are. And maybe they're at a point, having been out for a decade or more, where they know who they are and they know what they want and they want to date someone and invest their emotional energy in someone who's in roughly the same place, roughly at the same emotional and social age that they are. I don't think that you should lie, though. I think you should keep telling the truth. And the guys that this is a deal breaker for, that you've only been out for a couple of years, who bolt or ghost on you, good fucking riddance. Eventually, you're going to tell a guy who it's not going to matter to him that you've only been out for a couple of years, or he's going to be willing to take the risk for you because he likes you so much and he has gotten to know you well enough that he senses a fundamental bedrock maturity in you that is belied by how recently you came out and compensates for how recently you came out. For someone to be in that place where they can see a fundamental maturity that may be at odds or in conflict with how recently you came out, you might want to let guys get to know you a little bit better before you have the when did you come out conversation. That is a convo that a lot of gay men have early in relationships. It's something we all share. It's our hero's journey. It's the one thing that all out gay people have in common, that we had to look mom and dad in the eye and tell them after we finally looked ourselves in the eye and told ourselves this truth. And that's a searing experience. And for many of us, it's a crucible in which we are tested. And getting a sense for when and how someone came out and how it was received and how they did it, that's a touchstone for a lot of guys. I think that it is possible to delay having that conversation. You don't want to do it in a suspicious way. I don't want to talk about that right now because that is going to throw a guy because it's usually something gay people are really comfortable talking about. But you can just sidestep the conversation. If you've been initiating this conversation, how long have you been out? When did you come out? I only came out 2 years ago. Stop initiating this conversation. But when it comes up, answer truthfully. The guys who can't deal, they'll go. The guy who can, he'll stick around. That's the guy that you want to date. Audiobooks are great for helping you be a better you. For our audience, Audible is offering a free audiobook with a 30-day free trial. If you want to listen to it, Audible has it. Just go to audible.com/savage or text Savage to 500 and browse their unmatched selection of audio content. Download a free title and start listening. It is that easy. Audiobooks go so well with summer activities like hiking, sunbathing, running, road tripping, enjoying downtime outdoors, and more. One book to consider, actually a whole long list of books to consider in the advice section of Erotica and Sexuality. Books I've recommended, the authors of many of these books have been guests on this show. Go check out The Whole Lesbian Sex Book, She Comes First, Sex for One, Naked at Our Age, The Ultimate Guide to Kink, Femdom for Nice Girls, The Adventurous Couple's Guide to Strap-on Sex. If you're looking for great sex advice and you're looking to try out Audible, you have a lot of really terrific options available right now at Audible. Audible members get a credit every month, good for any audiobook, regardless of price, and unused credits roll over to the next month. Didn't like your audiobook? You can exchange it, no questions asked, and your books are yours to keep. With Audible, you can go back and re-listen anytime, even if you cancel your membership. Get a free audiobook with a 30-day free trial at audible.com/savage or text Savage to 500. That's audible.com/savage. Or again, text Savage to 500.
Hi, Dan. My wife and I just recently, a couple days ago, had our first MFM threesome. It was great. My wife really loved it. It was, two guys, all about her. Afterwards, she felt almost giddy, as if she described it as if she was stoned, even though, we did this bone sober and she hasn't smoked marijuana in, almost 10 years. So, but, at first I just wrote it off as it, being, really, really good fucking. It was, basically a 3-hour fuck fest, and it was all about her, and, minus a, few breaks for hydration and to use the restroom. It was pretty solid, just, 3.5 hours straight. But she still felt this way the next day at work, which, she felt kind of odd about it. Wasn't as bad, but she still felt, giddy and euphoric and a little fuzzy-headed. And, she came home and did a cursory Google search, try to figure out if there's a term for this, or if, this situation that happened a lot, or, whatnot. And the closest thing she could find was subspace. But, obviously this wasn't a BDSM thing. This was just, good old raw fucking. But she was just wondering, and I was wondering as well, is if there's a term for this, if it's common, or, what the deal is.
Afterglow. Afterglow can last for 5 or 10 minutes. Afterglow, if you've really stepped outside your comfort zones and you've gone for it and had a crazy, fun, exciting, successful sexual adventure, that afterglow where you almost have to sort of reconceive of yourself, who you are sexually, what your relationship means, and what's possible in your relationship, to be wrestling with all of that and embracing all of that and to be excited about all of that, the afterglow can last for weeks, months, years. Afterglow. So that's the term I would apply to what your wife is going through, enjoying, reeling from right now. It is a serious case of reassessing herself and your relationship and what it means in a positive way. It is a serious, and intense case of mega afterglow.
Hi, Dan. I was on Pornhub and I saw tribbing, TRIBBING. Urban Dictionary did not come up with anything. Is this a thing? What is this thing? Please explain. Apparently, I'm not a cool kid that's up with the lingo.
You must be using Bing or Ask Jeeves. Tribbing, UrbanDictionary.com, refers to scissoring, which is when two women rub their vulvas and clitorises together as a form of non-penetrative sex. From tribidism, which refers to lesbianism, derived also from the Greek tribos, a lesbian, and tribo, which is the verb to rub. It's right there in Urban Dictionary. Happy to Google that for you.
Hey, what's going on, Dan? I'm calling in response to episode 616 and the first woman who called in asking if she'd been raped and kind of what to do about it because that guy's still in her life. I think you're right about everything. Like, the answer is yes, very much so. And one suggestion that I kind of want to throw out there for her or anyone else dealing with something like that is actually going to a self-defense class. whether it be just women's self-defense or maybe the best might actually be Krav Maga, which is the Israeli army's kind of dirty street fighting. And I'm not saying she has to go and attack this guy, but realistically, even if she confronts him, if he's his brother's friend or whatever, she probably will see him again. And having been trained and knowing that she can kind of defend herself physically is going to add a new level of sort of confidence or safety or whatever. And it's definitely worth maybe one night a week going to a Krav Maga center just to build up that skill set so that you know in the back of your mind you can hurt that person. It's just one step that a lot of women, I think, would probably benefit by taking, especially as long as there are testosterone set up dick monsters in the world doing horrible things like this piece of shit sounds like.
Hi, Dan. I'm calling in response to the woman on episode 616 who dated men and said she likes dating, but after having sex with them, no longer likes them. The caller also asked, is there something wrong with me? You responded that she needs to address her sex negativity and phobia and work with a shrink. I think you're right, but I also think there may be another piece to the puzzle. Caller, in addition to being sex negative, you may also be gay. That was my experience. I thought I was straight until I was 48. That's when I discovered I had been so shut down about sex that I haven't even realized I was gay. I'm so much happier now.
Hi, Dan. I'm calling in about the couple that had a threesome and the guest star possibly peed all over their bed. I'm calling because I am the guest star that they think peed all over their bed. I'm not sure if he called in before or after he texted me about the situation, but I thought we figured it all out and we're okay. I feel completely humiliated that he called into a podcast that he knows I listen to. So I'd like to share my side of the story. Yes, I did 100% have a UTI at the time. I get them pretty frequently. I was on pain medication for it, so I was still sore somewhat, but I was really into this couple, so I still wanted to hook up with them. I also have to point out that the female partner of this couple stated she also has a UTI and agreed to oral sex only and no penetration. Also, yes, I do have a kink for peeing on people, but it's something I've only ever done twice in my life. And it was with partners that I'd been with for a while, who I trusted, who after finding out about this kink asked me to do it with them many times before I agreed to. It wasn't even me who initiated it because it's an extremely vulnerable thing to do with someone. I am not someone who gets off on tricking people. I had no intention of making them feel violated, especially since I am the victim of sexual assault myself and ended up suicidal afterwards because of it. I would never intentionally make someone feel that way, even if it did get me off in some twisted way. As far as the fluids go, I would be extremely surprised if I peed. Because of the medication I was on, the pain medication, my urine was bright orange, and it would have been unmistakable all over their sheets. When he texted me about it, he told me the fluid was yellow and smelled like pee. I didn't inspect the bed afterwards, so I can't say if he was mistaken, but I wiped myself off afterwards, and it was clear. And then I went to the bathroom afterwards and emptied my bladder, and there was a lot of pee in there, so I don't think any of it ended up on the bed. Perhaps the pain medication stained my vaginal fluid yellow. I'm not really sure, but I know a side effect of it can be that it can stain contact lenses or stool yellow or orange, so maybe it had that sort of effect. I have no explanation for the smell, but I think he would have smelled it while he was going down on me and while we were cuddling on this apparently massive puddle of fluid. I'm thinking I just squirted, which is a newish thing for me over the last year. Many times I've freaked out about it when it happens. It's happened at my own apartment, and I've inspected the sheets thoroughly, and it's always clear and odorless. The actual sensation of peeing feels completely different than what happened that night. I don't know much about squirting, but I'm pretty sure I didn't pee, so what else would it be? I never imagined that the story of this night was going to end up on my favorite podcast, but I'm not the disgusting, horrible human being that he made me out to be.
We've never gotten a call like that before. I want to thank you for calling in with your side of the story. And it's an important reminder that every week we hear the question, we're only hearing one side of the story. I try to bear that in mind when I'm giving advice, but I appreciate the anvil of a reminder that you dropped on us today, caller. Thank you. And we're going to leave it there. 206-302-2064 is the number here at the Savage Lovecast. If you'd like to record a question or a comment for a future show, give us a buzz, 206-302-2064. You can also record a question on your own phone and email it to us as an MP3 at voicemail@savagelovecast.com. Tickets are on sale now for Hump, My Dirty Little Porn Film Festival. It's the 14th annual Hump, and it kicks off in San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, and Olympia in November. Go to humpfilmfest.com to get advance tickets now. Follow me on Twitter at FakeDanSavage. Follow Dr. Lori Brotto on Twitter at Dr. Lori Brotto. The Savage Lovecast is produced every week by Nancy Hartunian and me and the tech-savvy at-risk youth. And Nancy, we'll all be back at you next week with an installment of Savage Lovecast. Thanks for downloading.